Thank you, and welcome back to Race Industry Week 2024, day 3. George Tamayo is with us. Good morning, George.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Very good, very good. So you have, quite a few sessions again in the next 2 days, and any thoughts so far?
I enjoyed this previous session with Richard and just hearing about WEC's WEX plans, and like Richard, happy to hear that that WEC is popular here in the U.S.
Yes, they have done a beautiful job, and Le Mans. I mean, it's just part of the history of racing. So always had
Absolutely.
American teams, American spectators there. So we're going to be bringing Michael from Trans Am, and while we bring him, we have a short video from Trans Am. So why don't we roll the video, and then we'll bring Michael on.
Great.
Speed Tour has been described as a complete assault on the senses, starting with the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli. Always bringing the loudest roar of the ground-pounding music on the track. Founded in 1966, Trans Am is the longest-running professional road racing series in North America. The excitement of the original Pony Wars is alive and well in Trans Am. The Trans Am Series in itself is an eclectic mix of cars and classes, with the Cube 3 architecture TA2 Series providing a large single-class race group, while the TA and GT classes provide the best in multi-class racing. The minimalist rulebook of the TA class allows for a lot of innovation with 850 plus horsepower and no driver aids, making for an interesting combination for drivers and team alike. The semi-spec nature of the TA2 class and the accompanying cost controls make TA2 the most competitive and cost-effective way to go pro racing in North America. Additionally, with the TA2 cars being similar in functionality to those used in short track and other pro racing feeder series, TA2 has now become the de facto development series for that next star of stock car. Then we have the Grand Touring classes, the 3 GT classes, Extreme GT, Super GT, and GT, offering a place to race a wide range of popular production-based race cars, both factory-built and custom-built. Trans Am has been growing rather quickly in the last few years with its live broadcasts and Trans Am Thursdays on MAV TV, but also the ever-growing reputation that TA2 is the most competitive and cost-effective road racing series, period.
The inside, three-way into Andretti. Merrill will take the lead brilliantly.
Wow,
Morning,
what a
Michael.
video we had there. We're going to leave it in your hands, George. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being on, Michael.
Thank you.
Hey. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Good, George. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for asking. Exciting video to watch there, and coming off the back of a very exciting 2024 Trans Am presented by Pirelli series this year. You had in the TA class a new champion for the first time in a few years. His first championship with Paul Menard in TA, and TA2, which we heard a lot about in that video. Rafa Matos becomes the winningest TA2 driver and a 3-time champion in that class. Your thoughts on this past season?
Well, it's been a great one. Watching that video wants me to go racing next weekend. So
Yeah.
That was awesome. This past season was great. It was a great learning. It's my first year with Parella Motorsports, and handling the whole gamut of what we draw to our sports. But the Trans Am and TA2 teams are just incredible. It was so much fun to learn. The intricacies of everything that's going on, coming from track management into this sport. I mean, not that I was shy of this at all. I spent 23 years with NASCAR, but having these cars and the partnership with Tony Parella and our ownership group in New York, it was just a great season. And it was great to see Paul. Nothing against Chris Dyson. I love Chris. He's a great guy, but Paul really took it out there. And Chris just had a couple bad luck races this year that set him back. But like you said, with Rafa, just cleaning up. I mean, he's a rock star. And then, we had some other great winners too, like Kaylee Bryson. She's our young female out of Oklahoma, and
Yep.
just having a lot of fun this year. And I think that's the best part is just, I spend so much time in the paddock. It's just fun to get to know everybody, whether, personalities, owners, shops, drivers, mechanics, whatever it might be. So great year, great 24. Can't wait till 25.
Yeah, yeah. We saw, and you mentioned here, but we saw a big emphasis in the video on TA2, which I think that when TA2, just look at the way it's called, it's TA2, right? TA is the marquee class, but is it almost now, are you guys considering TA2 the joint marquee top class for the series? And again, it was mentioned in the series about cost effective and all of that stuff, but tell us more, because there's got to be more to the success of TA2, which has been really phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, with these cars, with the XGT class, the SGT class, and the GT class, there's definitely more of those cars out there. When you look at the whole population of cars, just in North America alone, so it's really something that we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep parallel path in both of these. Yes,
Okay.
we may get some more on the TA2 side just because of the availability of some of those vehicles, but the TA cars, with Dyson and Menard and these guys running those vehicles, Amy Ruman, it's providing a great series. So we want to build both. There's no like dominant feature here. We want to be able to take both of them into 2025 and keep growing both of the populations on both of those. What we've seen is pretty obvious, and some of the drivers have pointed out. We're seeing these young drivers. You look at Connor Zillage and Brent Cruz, and when they started and they're coming in the GT, the Kaylee Bryson, for example. I mean, just rock star drivers. And now Connor's graduated, and we've graduated a lot of people up into trucks, Xfinity, and NASCAR. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep looking for that young talent, whether it's TA or TA2, and we'll keep driving the boat.
Yeah, and you've jumped ahead on me, because one of my questions was about kind of that youth movement. I mean, for next year, we've heard announcements from Boris Said Jr., Thomas Annunziata, John Buffamante, who are all young drivers who are committing full time to the series next year, and they join, as you mentioned, Brent Cruz and Dylan Archer, and Connor has been obviously a part of the mix. I'm not sure what exactly his plans are for next year. So why that youth movement in TA2 specifically, and what is it? Does it change anything in terms of your mindset about how TA2 is positioned within the greater kind of hierarchy of Trans Am and Parella Motorsports?
I think if you go all the way back, down to the bottom, when these young men and women are karting, their experience is coming up very quick. To jump into a TA car, 800, 850 horse, that's a lot of requirement right there. I mean, that's more than a NASCAR Cup Series car.
Yeah.
But so I think that the platform to come drive XGT, SGT, or GT in the TA2 side just gives a bigger platform for the youth movement. Not to mention, we took Connor in when he was 14. You can't do that at NASCAR, and not that we're going to play an age game against NASCAR, but you can come develop yourself from karts to cars in our series very carefully. And Kaylee, I think, she's going to be one of the next ones. I mean, she's going to graduate, she's going to keep moving, and hopefully we see her in a TA car up there coming shortly in a couple of years. But I think that's the big thing. It's the platform we offer in a 500 horse, 550 horse car that allows these young people to really learn how to drive, particularly on some of the road courses that we go to.
Yeah. So you have an interesting balance just across the board, because as we were talking about these young drivers who have further career aspirations, you have sort of seasoned drivers who have found a home in Trans Am, like Chris Dyson as an example. But you really run the gamut, because across every class, TA, TA2, XGT, SGT, GT, you have a whole host of other drivers who are, I don't like to use the term weekend warriors, because I don't think that that's very respectful to what they're doing, but we don't have a great term for these guys who they're doing it because they love it. They love the passion. They love the prep. They love loading their car into the hauler and going to, all of these great tracks that you guys go to. How much of that has to remain a core component of what Trans Am is, of keeping those drivers who, for them, Trans Am isn't a holding place. It's not a place to leap to the next thing. It is the thing for them.
Right. Yeah. And I say this with a very flippant intent. we're not out there recruiting for Rusty Wallace and Mike Wallace to come back in, right? But we want to develop those drivers to be there. So it's 100% equal on us that we need to make sure that we're developing, again, not to use your words, but again, gracefully and respectfully, the weekend warrior. But when you look at this, and you got Paul Menard coming to our series this year, that was a big boost for us. I mean, we need people like Paul and that are going to come out and run our pro races and compete at the very high level. And then you've got other young guns out there like an Unziato and things, and those guys that are working their way into the bigger part of this series. But it's very important for us. Let's definitely stay focused on that to keep that and to try to grow that. So we have to, and everybody on our team, we need to start really marketing that. It's something that we haven't done that well, marketing to competitors. We market to the fans, we market to sponsors, we market to TV, but marketing internally, and I say we don't do it, we do it, but we just need to be better at it and how we garner more attention in those other series and have a platform. And, PRI's next week, and that'll be one of our platforms. We know that we're going in there, we know who we're going to talk to, and we hopefully can get some people over there to join us.
But the series has, I will say, I'll give you credit because the series has done over the years a lot to maintain a reason for being for those drivers who are there as a destination, right? There's always these kind of, every year there's a creation of, like, for this past season, for instance, you had something called Pick Six, which enabled a sort of a mini micro championship within the overall championship for those drivers who, I mean, I'll face it, a lot of these guys have lives outside of racing, right? Their racing is a hobby for them, and they've got work obligations or they've got other things going on, and maybe a full season isn't in the cards for them. But to give them the opportunity to have a kind of a championship within a championship and not have to commit to a full season is a big deal for a lot of these guys, I would think.
Yeah, there's no question about that, because like you just said, you can pick six and go from there, and you can be that champion within that champion. And you're not Chris Dyson, you're not Paul Menard, and you're not Tommy Dreesy, where you're racing every race, no matter where it is, or Amy Ruman. And so we're not lost in that. That was a great thing that Tony came up with to do that, and it was to exactly satisfy that. And that was, again, good feedback from the paddock that Tony took prior to me coming in on board, and something that we're going to continue to keep growing. So we saw the platform, we saw the success of it, and if we can gather more people and more drivers to come in, because let's face it, going to a race, whether you're a top 10 or a bottom 10 car, it's not cheap.
No.
Even in our series, you're gonna $25,000 to maybe $50,000 a weekend, depending on what your platform is. So, it's not an inexpensive drive. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, and just time is a big deal, and especially when you've got races where you might have just 2 days of hauling the car on the interstate to get to the track from where you come. So time is a big deal as well for a lot of these guys, I know.
Yeah, especially when, like you mentioned earlier, I mean, some of these are executives. Tommy Dreesy's got his business rolling. Chris Dyson's got his business rolling. Everybody's in a business somewhere. So, and it's not lost upon us that time is important. It's important to us too. So we got to be careful about when we do the schedules, and this has come back from feedback from the paddock to me and to Tony, is, hey, look, can we have a couple races that are only 2 days? Come in Thursday or come in Friday morning, race Friday, race Saturday, out Saturday night. And so we started doing some of that this past year. We did it at Watkins Glen. We did a Friday, Saturday, came in Thursday, raced Friday, Saturday. Part of the group was out, like the TA2, where they were gone. So we're working on that, because we also understand, when you're out and you've got a crew of whatever, 5, 6, 10 flights, hotels, feeding, everything else that comes aboard, we know it's not cheap, because we have to do it ourselves internally for Parella Motorsports.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of which, next season kicks off at Sebring, as it always does, in end of February, beginning of March. Tell us about the schedule next year. I know there's a new track. that's a new venue for next year. There's a California doubleheader, if you will. Tell us about next year's schedule.
I tell you what, it almost makes me tingle a little bit when you bring up 2025 schedule, because I know the paddock was super excited about it. And look, we're going to the biggest racetracks in the country. Outside of Daytona is the only big racetrack we don't go to.
Yeah.
That West Coast swing with Laguna and Sonoma and a doubleheader, having the West and the National compete all at the same time. The schedule is by far the best that we've put together. And it took a lot of feedback from the paddock. We had to lose a couple races. We lost St. Louis, we lost Pitt, and we lost NOLA out of the TA family, I'll call it. But we repositioned as well. And then we added Button Willow just a couple weeks ago, came on really late. But we're excited about that West Coast ad. But the new one that we're really excited about, Tony started it last fall, and then 23 fall, and then handed it over to me. But we're going to Barber this year, right before COTA. So that is an eclectic, famous racetrack. Most people don't even know much about it. And then they have the most famous museum outside of Indianapolis right there on the property, or maybe just as equal as famous. But we're excited. It's going to bring a whole new different realm to that. And, we're bringing our other series in there as well, the FRF4 and SBRA there. But it'll really be a cool way to end the season for FRF4. But then we continue to COTA as usual as our season ending. And, that's always a lot of fun when you're going to a Formula One track and being able to compete there. It just draws a lot of hair-raising moments, I'll call it.
Yeah, awesome. And we shouldn't give short shrift to the fact that, again, in the efforts that Trans Am makes to appeal to competitors, there's the national championship, but there is also the Western Championship, which helps, those competitors that are here on the West Coast not having to drive cross country all the time. You mentioned Button Willow is on that schedule. There's some joint events like COTA, and I can't recall off the top of my head, are the Sonoma and Laguna rounds in some way integrated with the national championship as well this year on the Western side?
Yes, they are. Yeah. So we'll have that as well. So that'll be another big add to that West Coast swing. So it makes so much sense. And those two tracks, as you well know, just two of my favorite road courses on the West Coast. Not my favorite, because Watkins Glen will always be my favorite. But,
of course, yes, goes without saying.
But no, I just, we're one big family in the road course world. And, from here to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, I mean, it's just a lot of fun that we get to do all this new one, which, as we added Canada this past year, and wildly successful. Even though we weren't the show, we were part of the show mixed in with the NASCAR program. But I tell you what, drivers were grabbing me after the race and said, if we don't come back here next year, you're mud. So I called Tony and I said, hey, I'm not sure we're going to come back here. He goes, I think we need to go back there. And obviously we're going back for 2025.
Yeah, fantastic. You mentioned a little while ago about your marketing efforts. And one thing I noted, and I wanted to just touch on, and I know you've only been involved for the last year or so, but one of the things that's pretty incredible is the partnership that Trans Am has with Pirelli as both the tire supplier and a title partner. This will be the partnership started in 2017, so next year will be the 9th season if we're counting in terms of seasons. And I remember when that partnership was first announced, speaking to Rafael Navarro, who was at the time was head of Pirelli Communications and was integral in making that partnership or starting that partnership. One of the things, I thought, gosh, it's kind of curious, Pirelli being involved with Trans Am, what's going on there? And, his point was that from a Pirelli point of view, they wanted to expose the fact that Pirelli isn't just for, an Italian super exotic. It's as much for an American pony muscle car as well, right? And so that was sort of the genesis, I think, of that partnership. But it has continued. I think it runs through 26. Am I correct in saying that in the current agreement?
Tony's renewing it right now. So, but yeah, they'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that, because it has been a really successful partnership.
Wildly successful. I mean, Tony landed a dream bomb when that one came in, and just Pirelli's been so supportive of us, and then we've been able to branch out to our other series with it as well. So not only just the Trans Am side, we've been able to partner and be good partners with them, and like you know, there's some people in this world will say, let the other guy make money first, and then we'll make money later. This is definitely one of those scenarios that, you know, Pirelli saw the value and we saw the value in them. And with the kind of tires we're rolling through every weekend, they're a great product. There's nothing else to race on. Pirelli is just killing it. And, you know, and then you throw Cube 3 architecture in there on the T82 side, and then we've got two of the best sponsors that we could ever ask for. But Pirelli has really sustained and maintained that Trans Am and the competition and their tire. You look at their wear and their sidewall integrity and everything that goes into those tires. And it sounds, you know, you can get into details, as you well know, on these tires, but they make a tire that is perfect for these cars. And with the weight, you know, you're pushing 2850 or 2830, I think, on these cars. You know, that's a lot of weight on those cars and the tires and the balance. And, you know, you don't see a lot of blowouts. I don't think I've seen one this year that somebody blew out with just a regular sidewall blowout or something. Of course, there's contact blowouts, but they really make a tire that's full of integrity, and they're a great company to work with. And Orazio, who is our contact on a day-to-day basis, has really upheld his end of the game, and we want to keep holding up ours for them.
Yeah, I mean, and also just consider the fact that most of the cars have few, if any, driver aids, so there is a lot of stress on that tire throughout a race.
Yeah, when you're the good point. I mean, with no traction control, no anti-braking, you know, there is a lot of stress. You think about the G forces going into any one of these road courses that have a high load G force going in, and you're slamming on the brakes, you're downshifting, and then you're going back out in apex, and you're running these tires mad, and they you know, they're doing a 100-mile race or a 75 lap is the criteria. And they're doing it on one set of tires.
Yeah.
And they're beating the heck out of them, but these tires uphold. And I think, like I said, that's the best thing about the Pirelli relationship. It's just, there's not another tire out there that's made as good as the Pirelli.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Changing gears a little bit. I know that there are more announcements to come, but you guys did announce this year that Trans Am is going to start a Hall of Fame next year, and we're anxiously awaiting to hear who's in the inaugural class. Tell us a little bit more about the Hall of Fame, and you know where that idea originated, and just some of the backstory behind that.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, I try to keep up with Tony on a day-to-day basis, and meaning, like, I'm already working on 2026. And I think he's already working on 2027, so he's already ahead of me. But it was Tony's idea to come up with this Hall of Fame. And just, it was like when we looked at each other and he brought it up to me, we were both on the board at the Watkins Glen Research Center up in New York. And we sat on that board for a long time. I sat on it for 14 years. I think he sat on it for 7 years. And there's a lot of material up there. SCCA has their entire, all their components up there, history up there, and documents. So when we started thinking about it, because we're going to have a little special place inside of that research center that honors this Hall of Fame. But when Tony brought it up, and we can get the documents, and we can digitize some of the materials coming out of Trans Am, you know, going all the way back to '66, it really was just like, when he looked at me and said it, I'm like, wow, what a no-brainer that was. And so it was definitely Tony's idea. The class is coming together. It's going to be pretty exciting to celebrate that in Sebring at the end of February. Can't wait, almost can't wait to get there already. And we just came off a COTA. So but we're all ready to go back to work and start the racing again, as you well know.
Yeah, well, there are no shortage of legends within the Trans Am history. So you got a lot to pick from for those Hall of Famers.
Yeah, you look at, obviously, you know, unfortunately, we posthumously have to induct some of them, you know, like Mark Donahue and some of these others. But when you look at Parnelli Jones and Dan Gurney and Sam Posey and Tommy Kendall and Bob Tilius, I mean, the names just go on and on and on. AJ Foyt in the original, you know, it's pretty cool to look at some of those names and be a part of that organization. Like, you know, I always used to say at Watkins Glen, and I now say it here, it's like, we're at Watkins Glen, such a long storied history, just like Trans Am and just like Trans Am. We're only caretakers for the future. We need to make sure that we market the best product that we can, inside, outside, and keep carrying on this torch, because that's what these drivers created for us, and owners way back then. They didn't know it, but they some that are obviously still around now, they know it now. That this was quite a program that they in racing series that was developed, and then Tony just, like you said, he came up with this harebrained idea one day. Let's do a Hall of Fame. I was like, duh. So it's on a roll. Everybody's in the planning session. We're getting ready, and we're picking entrees already. So we'll go from there.
Nice, very good. We only have about a minute or so left, but if you would, Trans Am is part of the Parella Motorsport Holdings umbrella, and your events are called Speed Tour. They also include other things like F4, Formula Regional, SVRA. Tell us a little bit just about the Speed Tour concept and how Trans Am fits as a part of that puzzle.
Yeah, it was a big picture think tank that we went through last year with Tony and I and Kim McCullough, our CMO. And like you said, you got Scott Goodyear running FR/F4. I mean, he was a legend, is a legend driver, a good big fan of mine. I'm a big fan of his. Excuse me. You got SVRA. You've got IGT, International GT, run by Ken Fangler, and Rob Elson running our PSSA, our prototype series. And then you got Tim Ricker and Aaron Colwell running the Trans Am side. So it's fun. I get to mix in all of those. I don't have to pay attention much as the COO of obviously Ken Fangler, Scott Goodyear. I put my fingers in a lot with SVRA and the Trans Am side since John Claggett stepped aside. So that's been a lot of fun, as you well know, as I've told you. But it's been it's a big family, so it's fun to play in that family, and it's fun to goof around with all these guys and gals and just keep promoting what we have. Yeah,
it's a great just diversity of car. I mean, I'm not really sure you can go anywhere else and see the gamut of cars that are and drivers that are participating in a Speed Tour event. But anyway, Michael, thank you very much for your time this morning. I see Francisque and Judy have joined back in, so our time is done.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, George.
Thank you, Michael. Great pleasure to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you.
EPARTRADE is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Looking for a quick fix of motorsports news? The Speed Sport Daily is what you need. It's a free racing newsletter delivered directly to your email every day. We'll cover the winners and the losers and tell you who's making news off the track. It's NASCAR, NHRA, World of Outlaw, IndyCar, and so much more. Go to speedsport.com today and get signed up for America's free racing newsletter and get your daily motorsports fix. The Speed Sport Daily.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
Scott Lewis & Associates, the sales, marketing, and branding specialist for the automotive performance industry since 1988. We get our manufacturers on track by opening an extensive distribution network, providing product training to sales staff, creating fully integrated sales and marketing strategies, building successful industry partnerships, attending trade shows, events, and races, offering first-class support to customers. SLAI delivers solutions that win you sales. To get in touch with an SLAI representative, call 516-378-6100. Go to scottlewisinc.com or email info@scottlewisinc.com.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series.
For over a decade, Fifth Third Bank has been a staunch supporter of our industry and a great partner for many companies in the motorsports field.
Our business has been growing extremely fast, and really we could not be where we are today without Fifth Third. They provided amazing strategic advice, the capital we need to support our phases of growth.
They are true partners for me now, and what they do with their involvement in motorsports is untouched in this community.
Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crowder Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crowder Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crowder Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crowder, victory is within your reach.
For over 25 years, Wisconsin-based C-Tech Manufacturing has been engineering and manufacturing the toughest, most accessible aluminum tool drawers, cabinets, carts, and tactical storage solutions for America's hardest working professionals. Whatever you need to store and however you need to store it, put your trust in C-Tech Manufacturing. We build it better. Visit our new website at ctechmanufacturing.com or give us a call at 715-355-8842.
If you're watching this video, you might be wondering, What is WPC? WPC is a surface treatment designed to reduce friction and increase the strength of metal parts. As much as it might seem like a coating, WPC is actually a surface treatment. Think of it like shot painting, but the media is much finer, like talc. So what you're left with is a super hard, smooth surface that actually has some proprietary dry lubricants embedded within it. For more information, visit WPCtreatment.com.